Hello, and welcome to the Kosh. I am your host, Timber Smith, and once again, it is a beautiful Saturday morning. We're getting ready to kick it off. You know what's exciting is, I got this thing. Every time I get up in the morning, I look outside, walk out, let the dog do his thing, and then I'm like, what's today gonna bring? So I come back and I have a conversation with Alexa. And I say, Alexa, what's that weather gonna be? And today, Alexa said 70 some degrees, and I was like, whoa. Wait, you see Alexa in the background? Alexa's like trying to get in the conversation. Alexa's trying to become part of the podcast. And I was like, 70 some degrees. This cannot be real, but may it be real. I am super excited if it is. So once again, the Kosh is a podcast that highlights people who have an association with Oshkosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. And once again, you know what time it is. I am super, super excited about this week's guest because guess what? I have another amazing guest, and I don't know how I get so lucky, but it's a thing. It's a thing. But without further ado, this week's guest is Joe Peterson. Joe. Hey. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, yeah. I mean, it's getting warmer out finally. Weather's finally breaking. Nothing to complain about.
Nothing to complain about. Not in Wisconsin for this time of year, and I can't even say her name because she's gonna jump on the podcast. But you know who I'm talking about, y'all. Mm-hmm. And she said it's gonna be a beautiful day.
Yep. I'm ready for it.
Hey, I'm gonna have to find something to do with it because I feel like when beautiful days break off, like you got to find a way to do something in it.
Yep. You can't just enjoy it from the window. You got to go be inside it. You got to experience it.
Yeah, so there might be a trip to some place to go grab some things to barbecue.
Yep, that's my plan.
Oh, wait. That was your plan?
That's my plan.
Oh, you got to break that down, man. What do you do on the grill?
I think tonight it's going to be ribs, but I also have some chicken and beef skewers I'm going to throw down. I'm going to do it on charcoal, a little bit of lump hardwood in there. Yeah. This is like a holy thing for me.
It is. Look, barbecue is a whole. I would love to have a barbecue podcast where you just talk about technique.
Yep.
Because I want to learn what the greats do.
Yeah, and everybody's got their own styles, and it's not always about what's the better method. It's just what works for you. What do you like? And so it's great. There's an opportunity for a real community there. It
really is, and there is because you know what, you can get a bunch of grillers together, and you stand around the grill with a libation in your hand or a beer, and it's a good time.
Yeah,
it doesn't take much more than that.
Right.
The smell of yumminess.
Yeah, good food, good drinks.
Good food, good
company.
Drinks.
Yeah, good weather. It's all there.
Hey, all right. So Joe, can you please share a little something about yourself and what is your connection to the Kosh?
Well, I actually moved to Oshkosh in 2010, right after finishing my PhD at Northern Illinois University, and I teach in the Department of Geology at UWO Oshkosh. And I'm a vertebrate paleontologist. So,
what is that?
I study dinosaurs.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know what? As a kid, and as a boy, because I think all boys as kids have a fascination with dinosaurs. That's got to be kind of cool.
I mean, I went through a dinosaur phase as a kid, and I actually got out of it, and then got back into it, and it's never gone away. So,
where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Pecatonica, Illinois. It's a small town of about 1,800, 2,000 people outside of Rockford, Illinois. It's in between Rockford and Freeport.
Pecatonica.
Pecatonica.
Okay. Is it small? Is it big?
It's very small, very small. My graduating class was something like 30 or 40 people.
30 or 40?
Yeah, it was pretty small.
Yeah,
it was very, very small. But, we'd go to Rockford or Freeport a lot because they were only like 30 minutes away. It'd be like going from Oshkosh to Appleton.
All right.
So that's where we'd go to the city. It was Rockford.
Rockford was the city.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I know some folks from Rockford. Yeah. Shout out to my man, Dr. Howard Spearman out there. That's cool. You know what? When you said Pecatonica, I thought you were going to say that lake name that was in Prince's Purple Rain.
Oh. God, what was.
Do you remember that?
Lake Minnetonka or something?
Yeah. Minnetonka or something like that. It's like, for real? That's a real place? No.
Yeah.
But that would have had to been in Minnesota, though.
Yeah.
All right. Family?
Married with 2 great kids and a couple of dogs and a cat.
Ooh, couple dogs.
Yeah, if you combine them, it's like one real dog. They're like 2 really, really small little dogs. Yeah, this is actually the first time in my life I've ever had 2 dogs, and it's definitely been an adjustment.
Is it an adjustment?
Yeah. They kind of get into everything.
I need to understand this whole 2-dog deal because, see, it's a conversation that comes up in our house often. But, see, Bosco, I feel like Bosco the podcast dog, who is currently not attacking the guest, but I'm sure will rear his face at some point. I hear 2 dogs are nice because they keep each other busy.
They do. I mean, I'll give them that. They definitely keep each other company, and they chase each other, and they play all the time. And we decided to give them, because they're small, like one of them's like half Chihuahua, half Terrier, and the other is kind of Beagle and Terrier. They're both pretty, kind of cat-sized. But we decided to give them some really, confidence-building names. So it's Thor and Freya, which is really fun when I'm, outside and I'm yelling for the dogs to come. And, everybody in the neighborhood's expecting these big beasts. And no, it's these 2 little, things.
Thor and Freya.
Thor and Freya. Yeah.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. And how do you see, I'm still on this the dinosaurs.
Sure.
I want to understand. So, have you done cool things to go? Have you gone on digs? Have you found cool things?
Oh yeah, I actually lead a field expedition, and I've been going on dinosaur digs since I was 14.
Whoa!
So yeah, when pretty much in 1993 when Jurassic Park came out, I was going into middle school and knew right away, okay, I want to do that. I want to work with these things. Live, not going to work. Dead, okay, I can do that. So I started going on digs in the summer in high school, and then in college I continued doing that, and in grad school I started leading some of my own expeditions out to Montana. And since I've been at UW Oshkosh, this will be our 11th field season at one of our sites. This next in June, I'm taking a group of students out, and we're going to spend a couple of weeks camping right at the site and digging. We've got a big skeleton we found a couple years ago that we're excavating. So.
Wow. So, I mean, you can actually do that as a UWO student?
Yeah. So it's something we offer through the Department of Geology, and it's for credit, and it's a really cool experience. And it's one of the site we're working at, too, is so prolific, and we find stuff every single day. It's one of the only places I think I could guarantee if you want to find a dinosaur bone, you're going to find one. They're that abundant at this one particular site. And so what I'm doing out there isn't just digging to dig. I'm trying to reconstruct why are there so many skeletons at this one particular site? What happened here? So it's a little bit of kind of paleo crime scene investigation in there too.
Okay. So paleo detective work.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that.
And why did everybody pass right here?
Yeah, or how did their skeletons end up here? Maybe
that's
they got
true.
Somewhere else and got washed in. So we're
shifted.
So we're trying to figure all that stuff out. It's just, it's a little challenging when half of your evidence, is washed away 140 million years ago. So we got to tease some data out of the rocks and the bones and stuff. It's kind of fun.
I assume there's some assumptions that might have to be made.
Yep, there's a couple of assumptions and a little bit of speculation, and that's kind of the fun part too. Is you really kind of have to let your imagination run before something pops up that you go, wait a minute, can we do something to test for that? And so we kind of encourage, within reason, some of the more wacky ideas, because you never know what something is, what's going to be testable.
I could see that. And especially, did you say 140 years again?
140 million at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. The stuff I did my dissertation on was about 67 million, so I'm kind of going back further in time.
That gives a new definition of history.
It does. It's something I bring up in class too when I'm going and covering topics about geologic time. It's one of the things that's kind of hard to grasp sometimes, and I think geologists and anthropologists and archaeologists, we kind of get used to just rambling off billions of years like it's nothing, because we're just so used to talking about that. But if you really do stop and think, like, hell, what is what does a million look like? I mean, most of our lives, and we measure them in days or hours, our schedules, right? Years maybe, but start talking about like a million years even. It's kind of hard to fathom. It's like, what would even like $1 million bills look like? I'd love to see it,
Oh, but apparently you've never seen some of the rap artists and
right.
And
Yeah.
they're literally stacking on the table.
Exactly. So, what would this look like? How would we visualize this amount of time, with something tangible? And it's still pretty mind-boggling. So I even have to catch myself with it.
Oh yeah. Well, you caught me. Okay. Well, we're gonna jump into the first segment. First segment is what in the world is going on with. This is where you start with the phrase, what in the world is going on? And you tell us what's on your mind.
Sure, yeah. It's nothing to do with paleontology, but just with topical stuff, I guess. What in the world is going on with the state of comedy right now?
Uh-oh. Hey, break that down. What do you mean?
Well, and I'm not taking a side on anything and getting into some of the political stuff and that's been brought up around it, but we're at this interesting crossroad, I feel like, with comedy, because in a world right now where we need to laugh more than anything else.
Agreed.
We have a crossroads between people trying to make comedy from 10, 15, 20 years ago and people that are making comedy today, and they're not always meshing well. And looking at some of the new stand-up specials that you'll see on things like Netflix and HBO, and some of them are getting well received, and some of them are getting a lot of backlash. And just how do we reconcile this when nobody can agree on what's funny? And it's kind of an ironic situation. When we need it the most, we can't even agree on it.
Look, my thing with the state of comedy is this: we done got too sensitive. Like, comedy's comedy. Mm-hmm. It's meant to be funny. Mm-hmm. It's gonna say things that are offensive. Yeah. It's gonna cross lines. Actually, some of the best comedy crosses lots of lines. I mean, have you ever really watched a Richard Pryor special?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my man crossed all. You know what? I think even sitcoms, I look at what used to be funny. Like, okay, so you take a Archie Bunker and George Jefferson from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And people may be mad at me for this. Kosh listeners, I understand. But you know what? It was funny. Mm-hmm. George Jefferson and Archie Bunker were funny.
Yeah.
The stuff, how that banter was hilarious.
And I think it worked really well for the audience at that time. And I'm sure there were people back then that didn't care for it. Of course, it's a personal taste.
Right.
And everybody's personal level of comfortability with material, I agree. But that was so cutting edge.
It was.
To do something like that. And I think even you brought up Pryor, a lot of the stuff he was doing with his stand-up nobody was really pushing some of those boundaries. And even the way he was delivering jokes, nobody was really doing anything like that. So, the stuff that was going on with Chappelle.
Yes.
But then we have, Hannah Gadsby, which really funny stuff. And you've got these two. And what I mean by a crossroads is what a certain generation is finding funny is changing. It's not what I was finding funny at that age.
Oh yeah. I think that's always happening,
right? And we're at this really odd spot right now where we can really see it, like we're peeking behind the curtain, like, wow, this is volatile, and it's kind of exciting in a way. So yeah, it's just been something that I've been noticing. It's one of my kick back, relax things, is try to check out what's new with stand up, and it's a weird time right now.
It is. I've been listening to this podcast, and it's Kevin Hart's podcast. It's called it's something the Minds of Comedy, Great Minds of Comedy, something like that. And he has guests every week of comedians, famous great comedians, and in listening to how they broke into the business, how hard the business is and stuff like that. And you're right. I mean, everybody's approach is different, but everybody's tone is different. And how they come up with what they think is funny is different. And the lines that they each push is very different,
Yeah.
They're comfortable. And some of it has to do with their backgrounds, their culture, or whatever. But the intent of a great comedian is to be a storyteller and tell versions of the truth that they're so honest but absurd that you have to laugh at it because we as people are flawed.
Well, and I think it's when when you have a good stand-up comic, they're sharing a relatable story that people can relate some human experience to, and when people laugh at it, that means they can relate to it. And I wonder if that's one of the things that's causing people to back away or to kind of lash out about it, is they don't like the mirror that's being put up in front of them.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't paying the type of attention to an extent until the slap.
Yeah.
The slap and the slap bothers me, and I've already talked about this once in a previous podcast, but the slap bothered me because it wasn't even that personal. No. It wasn't. But at what point do you have the right to put your hands on a comedian who's doing their job? I
mean, I can think of Chris Rock jokes that he should have gotten slapped for much faster than that. Right?
Yeah, that wasn't even it just didn't even hit right. It wasn't a hard hitting joke. I mean, at best,
I will say, before the slap, from that few seconds in between the joke being told and Will Smith getting up, my reaction was, he went there with that joke. And it wasn't like horribly offended. I was surprised Chris Rock did. Having somebody, who made the film Good Hair.
Right.
Like, and you're gonna make fun of a woman's hair condition. That's wouldn't have expected that from you. And then that went out the window. It didn't matter after that.
Right.
After the slap, it didn't matter. But it did get a little bit of a response from me. Again, it wasn't like a shame, like, how dare you. It was just like, oh, wouldn't have expected you to make that joke
because of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand
because
that.
Which was a really empowering film, for so many young girls especially. And it's like, oh, I guess, but it was kind of low hanging fruit anyway. I mean, I guess you're right. It wasn't a very good joke.
Yeah, it wasn't something that I thought was like, oh my God, he said that. Like, by no means. Actually, I went to a place, and first of all, I'll say I didn't know anything about her condition, and people that assume that people know, I don't care how much a star is on the TV. Do you really pay that close attention? Let me ask this. The Kardashians are on all the damn time. How much do you really know about them?
I can't even tell them apart.
Okay.
Bruh.
I take pride in that too.
And so here's my thing. So people that are like, you should have known. Yeah, no, you shouldn't have known. And number two, I liked G.I. Jane because I actually thought Demi Moore was really awesome in G.I. Jane back in the day. I mean, she was buff. She came out, and that was a thing. So, I mean, to say like, hey, we'll see you in the next G.I. Jane movie. And I mean, she's been in The Matrix. To me, it wasn't even a far-fetched, like, it wasn't absurd.
No. I thought my thing was more like, why are you going there?
About the hair,
about
because
the
of
hair
the movie
thing, but also like G.I. Jane. Who gives a damn about G.I. Jane anymore? Like, movies. I was in high school when that came out. Right. So like, nobody, like the younger generation that's watching me, if they even watch the Oscars, they don't know what that movie is.
Right.
So it was just, the whole thing was just so strange. And this is actually something I was talking about with some friends too right after it happened, is I think with the outrage and how people took such extreme sides on it says more about where we are societally right now.
I would agree.
But nobody was really just taking a moment to step back going, this is really friggin' weird that this happened at this award show, on Will Smith doing it. If Russell Crowe did it, nobody would have cared.
I buy that.
And, because it's like, oh, he's known for getting into fights with people, or did at one point. If it was a number of other celebrities doing it, I don't think people would have cared. But nobody would have expected Will Smith to do that, I think, first and foremost. And it was just such a weird thing over a lame joke and this big explosion. It was a very strange week. Strange enough that now, like a month later, we're
still talking about it.
Right.
So, I will agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's something that's going to be talked about in the history of comedy, unfortunately. Is this really, how weird did it get in 2022? Well, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air slapped Chris Rock over a lame joke at the Oscars.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air basically slapped Everybody Hates Chris.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you put it like that.
Yeah. Tell your teenage self that.
Right.
Bruh.
Okay. my what in the world is going on with is what in the world is going on with the fact that in Wisconsin, why are we always last to do things? And here's my thing. This one is about sports betting. Why? We got all these places around us where you can get online and put in a nice little parlay if you want to do that or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't. Mm-hmm. Why? That's just dumb. Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna let everybody else make the money. I don't get that.
There's a couple of industries I feel like Wisconsin is doing that on, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. I'll call the other one out because I have no shame about talking about that. So that one bothers me because here's the thing. Look, gambling's already rough. You can go in any bar, anything, and there's a machine.
Yep.
Anything. You can go in certain gas stations. I don't care what the business is. If they think there's going to be somebody who's willing to sit there and play a machine, there's a machine there.
Yep.
So why exactly can't I pay for a parlay when my friend in Chicago is playing parlays online and stuff like that? And I'm not even sure, but I'm probably pretty sure for whatever reason Wisconsin's always last. So I haven't done my research, but if I find out that Minnesota and Michigan also are in that scenario, I'm going to be mad.
Well, and again, I don't know too much about online sports betting. It's just not something I've got a lot of experience in, but it feels like, along with a number of these other things, it's just this kind of holding on to these archaic rules that the situation's already changed. Like you mentioned, there's already, machines in every bar and gas station. You can go into any bar and do a shake of the day, which is really no different, right? And there's lottery, but you can't go online. And my question is, why is it being held up?
Well, there's always a reason, and usually the reason is somebody is guarding their pot of gold in whatever market it is. And
right.
I don't know who's guarding that pot of gold for that, but I got a feeling who it might be.
Well, I would think that, tourism would benefit from removing more of these kind of restrictions.
Absolutely.
So if I would love to know, because I think it is strange how there are these restrictions in place. Well, somebody's benefiting, but.
Well, it's kind of, and now along in the same argument is my whole argument on legalization. Mm-hmm. So my thing is this. So every state around us is legal.
Yep.
Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota.
And you can drive up to Canada if you really feel like it.
Right. and so northeast, west, south. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting here in Wisconsin not collecting that tax income. Mm-hmm. We're just going to let everybody go across the border because that's what they're doing. If you don't think they are, you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And make all the money. But we don't want that money, apparently. But we like to complain about taxes.
Right.
But we don't want to cut taxes, perhaps, by actually getting into the same business that every other state around us is doing.
Yeah. And, it used to be when I would go home to Illinois, you could even if it was dark, you'd be able to know when you crossed the border because when all of a sudden the roads, Illinois roads, you could just cross in them. That seems to be the other way around now.
Right.
And gosh, wouldn't it be great? Here that's a state that already has the iPass system and stuff for the tollways.
Right.
Wisconsin doesn't. Here's a great revenue source, and it's the Tavern League though that's having a big part.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I've heard that. That's what I've heard is what I will say. And it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And why? Because I don't think you're going to lose money of people going to taverns. To go into churches, as we like to refer to them as here, that is just part of the culture of Wisconsin. Yeah. People aren't going to stop doing that.
No.
The people that do it are going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There'll just be a few more people that might decide to stay home, play a video game, and buy a really big pizza.
Or maybe they'll just do that after they get home from the bar.
That too.
I mean,
yeah.
I
that too.
Yeah, like end your evening on a mellow note, right?
Wait, somehow I don't think it's not as if it's non-existent at all. I don't think anything has ever changed the fact that it's been available anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
Bruh.
I live fairly close to campus. I walk to work. I walk home in the evenings. Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, you can tell.
The other day, especially.
Oh,
on the
well, yeah.
20th.
There was a nice little, the daily celebration going on there, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's, I don't care, like, because we go back and we visit family in Illinois. My kids see the signs, they see the billboards, they see the storefronts. They're going to be growing up with this. Even if, a child that's growing up in Wisconsin where everything's still illegal, they're going to be traveling around as they grow up.
Right.
They're going to know about this. It's not the same thing that maybe when we were younger, what we were taught. I actually asked my daughter, who's 12 now, but when she was a couple years ago, she was doing the DARE program at school. Mm-hmm. And I asked her what they cover nowadays. And apparently they focus a lot more on, the dangers of smoking and vaping, and it's much more anti-nicotine.
Right.
And I guess, like cannabis is treated more like alcohol. Like, hey, it's a thing when you're older, maybe let's just talk about responsibility and just stay away from vaping is the big thing which I get, but I don't, that's very different than when I was a kid. Like, I was told that marijuana and cocaine were damn near the same thing in the DARE program.
Well, I think they learned that they overshot that. Yeah, they overshot that. And then when people figured out, oh my God, they lied for the most part.
Yeah.
Then that made you not believe all the other things that really were the things.
Yeah, the good information went out the window with the bad.
Right.
So I'm glad to see the course correction, and I feel like the stuff they're covering now is a little more like, okay, yeah, this is more science supported. But yeah, all these other kind of restrictions, just really, really strange. And yeah, too many hands and too many pots.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the restrictions aren't, to me, they're not based on the right reasons. They're based on some industry trying to protect its source of income versus doing maybe what's best for the greater good of the people that it's supposed to be serving in a sense. Even though, private sector, it's about making money and constituencies and stuff like that. But I mean, here's my thing. I just hate the idea of all this income loss.
Yep.
And possibly a new tax base that doesn't raise our taxes.
And you'd think that the people that would be in support of that aren't.
You would think.
Yeah. You'd think that it's surprising that they're not. But
yeah, it's stunning to me.
Yeah. I'm still, I don't understand.
I don't understand. All right. Ooh, we went places.
Yeah, that went around.
That was yeah, we went around. Yeah. Okay, jump into the next segment, word association. This is where I say a word and you tell me what's on your mind. So first word we'll jump into is food.
Burning. Yeah, like we were talking about before. Get that coal, get the grill going. And that's the thing, I grill all year round.
Yeah.
I drag my propane grill into the garage, and I crack the door, and I'll be out there in February throwing stuff on there. It's all year round. This wasn't my plan. I got to hand it. It was my wife's plan. She just kind of threw my ass outside to grill all the time. Like, it's February. Well, it's cold. Get a coat. So that's how that started. But yeah, like so there isn't like a grilling season. It's just, when can I be more comfortable doing it? When do I not mind sitting outside with a beer for longer, right? So,
right.
But yeah, that's my go-to for that is steaks and chops. I'm actually trying something right now. I'm trying a little experiment in my fridge. I found these bags online. I think I got them through Amazon. They're called Umai bags. And they're kind of like a shrink bag, like for freezer stuff, except it doesn't seal that tight around it, and it's for dry aging meat.
Oh.
So you buy like a whole uncut slab of New York strip or something, like 13 pounds.
Okay.
And you slide it into this bag, and you seal out as much of the air as you can. You put it on a rack in your fridge for like a month or two. And then when you get it out, you've got to take that membrane bag off and shave off, obviously, the really dry parts. But you've got if you do the math on it, you've got like a $90 restaurant steak, dry aged, for like $20.
Wow.
So we'll see around Mother's Day how that turns out.
Okay.
I got 13 pounds of New York strip sitting in my fridge.
Bruh.
We're going to have a conversation about this offline because I want to learn more all about that. Now, I am a grill. I like to consider myself a grill master. I own enough grills to at least say I am grill competitive.
Okay, good.
And I love it too, but I'm not going to lie. So like I used to be the get out there and grill and all this, but you know who took my grilling from me? The wife.
Really?
She grills more than I do. She will get out there in a heartbeat. Look, she's masterful at it. You know what I did? I did it too well. Taught her the things.
Nice.
She's too good.
That's great.
Now she's confident.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because that means you can reap the benefits without having to do all the work.
Yeah, but
every
the work,
single time.
but the grill work. I mean, I'm not complaining that she is. Right. She's good. I mean, she's very good. But I mean, there is a thing. Like,
I think cooking in general, right? Anytime you make something that you can feed it to other people and make them happy, there's a sense of pride in that. That's part of the process. It's like I made this. So I get it. I've been showing my wife and kids some of the tricks, but there might be a few I'm holding on to.
You're holding on to them?
Maybe a couple for now. Maybe for now.
You are right about that making food thing. See, my thing is this. I want to make it and then sit back and go, and sit and watch you eat it. Like Grandma used to do. Grandma would make an amazing meal, and then she wouldn't eat right away. She'd sit back, watch everybody eat the plate, and she knew.
So do you like experiment much with the grill, or do you I'm going to try something kind of out there?
Well, I can't say I try things, and there's certain things I've come to really like. And now, have I tried anything? I try more devices than try things, right? Okay. And so, I had bought a mini egg the other year. Oh, nice. And I still haven't mastered the mini egg. I'm working on that. I bought this charbroil thing that's a cylinder where all the fire's on the outside. They called it a greaseless turkey fryer. Okay. But you can barbecue in that thing. And so I've been experimenting with that. I've been experimenting with smoking different kinds of ways.
Nice.
So meat's meat to an extent. And I haven't tried any crazy meat that I don't understand, but I've definitely tried different tools.
Nice. Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff out there too that's fun to play around with. Yeah, I'm always doing the Amazon search for a new grilling gadget. It's kind of hit or miss, but we started doing big family camping trips last couple of years. Yeah. And so that's kind of the go-to, all right, what can I do over a campfire? Is fun. So let's change up the setting.
Right.
Not that because I've just got grilling at home down anything. No, there's still stuff I'm still playing with getting that brisket down, Right. But over the open fire, what can I do with a 2-bone rib roast? That's where I start having some fun.
That sounds impressive.
That starts over a wood fire. That's my favorite thing to do. That's how we open up our camping season every year
Yeah.
I'll pretty much spend the whole first day camping just tending to a fire. And drinking beer. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Facts. All right. Cocktail or beer?
Oh, this is a tough one. Because not as much anymore, but I used to homebrew a lot. And so I was I went through the beer snob phase.
Oh.
And, where it's I have to try all these different kinds of beers. And I still have a favorite style that's really hard to find. It's called a Rausch beer, where it's a really old style where the malt is smoked before it's added and turned into wort and then beer. So when you drink it, it's got this very subtle, smoky aftertaste. It's not like drinking bacon or anything.
Right.
Not that would be bad, but it's a little bit of a birch smoke flavor that comes through the beer. It goes really good with grilled meats. So that's one when I can find it, or when I can make it. That's a fun one to try.
How hard is it to make beer?
It's really not that hard. I mean, to make drinkable beer, not hard. To make good beer, I don't know.
Bruh.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. No, I've used you can get a box kit that's got the hops and the malt syrups and like instructions. If you can boil water, you can make beer. It's just about the patience and the time and the ingredients. I've had some like box kit 5 gallons of beer that came out of them that turned out really, really good. And then I try to do it again, and it's just not quite as good. It's drinkable. I mean, the good thing is it's not going to make you sick if it's not good.
Right.
You just have 5 gallons, beer for brats or something. But no, like, and so I did get a little crazy for a while with trying different experiments with beer, and some were hit and some were a miss. But yeah, I like the process. You're kind of harnessing microbiology and chemistry together, right? Getting those little yeasts to do what you want them to do. But to be honest, in the summer, though, it's kind of a mix-up like cocktails and beer. I go back and forth. It's very seasonal.
What's the cocktail?
Cocktail right now with spring coming in, I've been doing a lot more stuff with rum. And a big part of that is because my wife and I went on a vacation for early part of the spring, went down to the Dominican. So now I'm like very much in like, I want to go back to that. So I'm like, go back to the rum runner kind of a thing. But yeah, like it's just kind of, usually in the winter, it's a little bit more bourbons and scotches, some Manhattans and stuff like that. But then as we get more into the spring and summer, we're going to like rum, maybe tequila, and eventually vodka, gin and tonics in the summer are awesome, stuff like that.
Okay. Streaming.
Gosh, we watch stuff on everything. But I'd say one of my favorite go-tos for a streaming service is actually Tubi TV, which is a free streaming service. There's occasionally ads during some of the movies or TV shows, but they have this incredible library, and I especially like it because they've got quite a lot of cult films. So like horror, sci-fi, really trashy stuff. That's just kind of fun to have a beer and watch it, laugh with your friends. And so for the podcast that I host, we actually use that almost exclusively because that way listeners can tune in, watch the movie, and then if they want to listen to our podcast and listen to us talk about it, they can join. So, but I really like Tubi. There's always something good on there. You spend so much time flipping through different streaming services. It's like when I was younger and used to go to a Blockbuster, which is a very old statement.
It really is.
I'd spend an hour in there trying to pick out a movie, and now it's even worse because I've got Hulu and Netflix and Amazon.
Oh my God, that happens to me.
Yeah, you just kind of get down like, what are you going to watch? Nothing. I'm just going to look at titles. But there's always something on Tubi like that looks ridiculous. I could watch that.
I get it because you know what? I get stuck in that. Sometimes I'm scared to start looking for something to watch because I know I'm going to spend an hour digging through to try to figure out what to watch. Yeah. And then I'm like, this didn't do anything. I lost an hour.
And, for a while there, you could get, recommendations from people, but now there's so much variation. There's so much variability in options. That if somebody recommends something to you, even if you really trust their judgment, there's no guarantee that recommendation is going to pull you in. Right. And it's really do I want to risk my time on a recommendation?
Facts.
It's tough. Yeah.
No, I feel you. My mom is mine. If my mom says it's legit, it's legit. She never steers me wrong. She's pretty good at that. But yeah, okay. Tubi. But you said something in there about your podcast.
Yeah, so I was going to save this for the plug, but I'll do it again. So I am a co-host of the Video Junkyard Podcast, which is a weekly show where we essentially, the whole idea of the podcast was what are movies that maybe are either just cult classics or the weird, stuff you'd find at the bottom of the $5 bin at Walmart, or maybe this was a movie that was really popular for like a week and then nobody talks about it anymore. Right. Like a flash in the pan kind of a thing. So we try not to go with stuff that's too recent, though occasionally we do. But yeah, so it's not all like sci-fi and horror, but a fair amount, because usually if you're watching an old trashy movie, it's going to be, a grindhouse film, or it's going to be like an exploitation film or something like that. So it's, so we've been having a lot of fun with it.
Okay. We'll make sure that we put a link in there in the podcast notes, because we want people to check that out. And me personally, I need to be on your show.
Yes, you do. We got to get you on there. Yeah, and it's always fun. We usually let a guest pick a movie. And so sometimes we do like a 2-week theme. Like right now we're doing like 90s comedies, like how well have they aged? Oh. And spoiler, not well.
Not well.
some of them not well at all, and then some other ones surprise us. So it's kind of fun to get a guest on there, and they pick the movie, and then there's always some good soundbite
Okay.
comes out of it.
I'm with that. Shop local.
God, there's a lot of local businesses I really love around here. But I would have to say one of my favorite businesses, is just experiences I've had with a local business owner here in town, is at 920 Tattoo.
Okay.
Carrie and Steve Olson are just awesome. Not just because, like, yeah, I like to get tattoos and go in there, but they do really good work, and it's a very comfortable setting. It's very clean. Not to say anything against any of the other shops in town, but just there's an atmosphere in there that I think going in there made me realize that the old kind of stereotype image of like the neighborhood bartender being like the person you go and you chill and you get some wisdom from while you're having a drink. I feel like a good tattoo artist has entered into that realm. You're sitting in a chair for a few hours and you just get to talking. And so, yeah, I've had some great conversations hanging out with them, getting work done, and they do amazing work. So that's one of my favorite places to go when I can.
Okay. I feel like I got to ask the question because it's the question that you ask people when they bring up tattoos. How many tattoos you got?
I have a quarter sleeve on this arm, and I've got a bunch of stuff there. I've got.
Oh, you're
hard
tatted.
It's hard to tell.
You're tatted.
At this point, it's hard to like pinpoint how many.
Yeah, no, you're tatted.
And I got another one coming in July. So
okay,
yeah,
we got plans. We got
plans.
future plans.
Yeah, wife and I are going to get a tattoo together. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I've been working on that. I've been trying to. Me personally, I'm not hung up on getting tatted, and it's only because I love tats and I love how people look at tats. But I'm branded. And because I'm branded, it just makes me feel different about tats in the sense of you really can't get crazier than branding.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, yep, I've already jumped the shark.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. And I could see that. I could see that being like, well, it's like Neil Armstrong. Like, well, I've been to the moon, so how do I top that?
Yeah. So it's just like, But I've totally been trying to talk the wife into getting a tattoo for freaking like a couple of decades here.
Well, I love how tattoo culture has changed so much.
Oh yeah.
When I was a kid, even it was like somebody had a tattoo that was in a film. If you saw someone with a tattoo, they were edgy, right? And they maybe were somebody you didn't trust. And I know that like my parents' generation really had to shake that. They had a harder time shaking that, I think, than a lot of us did. And now it's you try not, people, you shouldn't judge somebody by their tattoos. But it's like, wow, who did that? Who did that work? How'd you do that design? It's so much more friendly. And I've noticed even businesses have started coming around. Many businesses started coming around and not caring about tattoos. I mean, like I said, I teach at university, and I don't like walking in with my shirt off or anything like that. But yeah, they can see I'm wearing a T-shirt that that I have tattoos, and nobody cares.
Yeah, no tattoo. You know what's funny? I think the culture shift is now a person with tattoos is kind of the norm. Mm-hmm. But if you smoke, then you're edgy. You're taboo.
Yeah.
And wait, if you think about it back in the day, and it's very funny when you look back at old pictures of people, they smoked in their offices. There were ashtrays on their desks from like the 60s and stuff. And it was just like, so you think about a true shift, the trade-off.
Yeah.
That is a culture trade-off.
Absolutely.
Over all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it used to be ashtrays in cars and airplanes and stuff. And even just a couple of years ago, they still had the little ashtray in the arm of the airplane seat. But yeah, that has totally changed, and you're right. Tattoos have kind of flipped as well.
Yes. Cool. Diversity.
So, one of the things that I do think of when I hear the word diversity is, especially like in my career, really, is in the sciences, particularly in the geosciences, whether it's geology or paleontology or any other subfield, and this is a career of a depth collection of knowledge that was essentially claimed, I'm not even going to say discovered, but claimed by white men. And there's been a big push to try to first bring the recognition to women and people of color that have contributed to science over the years, to numerous discoveries in many, many fields.
Right.
But now trying to have that, make sure that next generation of scientists, in my case, geoscientists and paleontologists, is not just more bearded white men, you know? So I really love the fact that in our department, in the geology department, I've seen just in the 12 years that I've been there, I've seen a huge shift to like the number of majors we have that are women. There are actually more women geology majors now than men, and I think that's really, really cool.
Bruh.
I still feel like we have a long way to go in bringing diversity in terms of race and people of color into the sciences. It's there, but it's not where it could be.
Right.
And so that's just something that I try to do when I can, and try to find new ways of doing is letting people know that these opportunities are there for everybody. And making a scientific contribution is something that anybody can do if they're willing to kind of put themselves out there and willing to, to really venture into this. But it's a bit daunting when you look at, okay, here's the big wall of people that have taught in this esteemed department or whatever, and it's just all white men. Yeah, that's going to be a really hard thing to overcome. But how do we find new and productive ways of not only getting more students of different backgrounds into these topics, but get them to stay and to make contributions? Because that's how we're going to see that change. So how do we come up with these new ideas?
I don't think people always understand the power of not seeing people that look like you doing something, and therefore you don't even realize you do this, but you subliminally feel like I can't do that. Yeah, it takes a special. Everybody's not a trailblazer, as I like to tell people. Everybody is not set up to be the person that breaks through.
Right.
And so when you don't see those people like yourself, even though they may exist, it does make you just don't put it into your plan. You don't put it into your options sometimes. Right. I mean, sometimes there's those people that are like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And regardless of whatever, I'm going to do that. And that happens. But more often than not, I just think it's super helpful to see others doing something that share characteristics like you, where you can envision yourself being that person.
Right. And I look at how I got to where I am, and absolutely there was help along the way. I could see people that looked like me doing these kinds of things, and I had, things that helped me get there. And I feel bad that like I got to this point, and now I can look back and go, oh yeah, I guess it's not the same for everybody. But how can we change that?
Right.
And so that's some things we're trying to do. But yeah, I was really pleased and thought it was a really kind of cool organic thing to happen. Like our current geology club of students for the next year, it's all women. And I don't know if that's ever happened before. And that's just really cool. It lets me know, okay, this is possible. We can start making this change. So for people that are complaining it's too hard, no, it's happening. We have to keep at it, and we have to make these opportunities available.
Right. Yeah. It's never too hard. It's just, it may be slow, because what you're doing is you're culture shifting, and culture shifting is slow.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight usually.
Yeah, and usually when there's a big push to force a culture change, there's a backlash.
Oh yeah.
So
change is hard.
It really is. It really is. So yeah, we're trying to do more to promote that best that we can.
Okay. Community.
It kind of goes along with diversity. I mean, we're looking at a scientific community and how and who is representing that. And so I kind of keep those two things in mind. I think because when I think about diversity, I think about a diverse community. And so I want to see my children who are biracial. I want to see them see themselves when they look at whether it's a scientist, a singer, an actor, an athlete, a banker, whatever. I want them to be able to see themselves in those roles.
Love it. I agree. So, I'm along that lines. Yeah. Okay. Next segment. This is the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is where you have an opportunity to share about some hidden gem here in the Kosh that you want to tell us about it. Maybe it's something we already know about, but there's things about it we don't know. So, there's the opportunity there because I'm not gonna lie, there's some things where people have talked about, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. I've seen it, didn't know it did that.
Christine's.
Okay,
That is my favorite restaurant in town.
break that down.
Christine's is in the same building that Terry's is, so it's like right on the corner there, across from Mabel Murphy's.
Yes.
And they're now starting to do more like table seating and stuff, but we've been going there for a couple of years.
Yes.
On and off when there wasn't a shutdown. You walk in and it kind of just looked like a regular college bar, but they have the best pho, the best egg rolls, the best deep fried pork belly lob style with sticky rice and banh mi's. It is amazing. That's one of those, like, this whole last week when it was like cold and dreary, it's like, I need something to warm my soul. We're going to Christine's. And yeah, some of the best food I think I've had in town.
Shout out to Christine. So you know what? I've gone there, and you're right. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. There's been a few times that has been the after cocktail spot to go hit, and to have some of that food to be your after cocktail option is unbelievable.
It is.
In the Kosh, come on, that's just crazy.
My wife's from the south side of Chicago, and so she's been like, "What is it about this stuff?" She's like, "I didn't grow up eating Vietnamese food." She's like, "So what is it about this that really is just hitting it for her?" And I was like, "It's got all those south side notes. If you think about food from the south side of Chicago, it's like wings, rib tips, all that kind of stuff. It's hitting all those notes."
Right.
Same kind of notes. If you went to Harold's and you got, like the spicy wings and stuff, you've got that crunch, you've got that spice.
Yes.
It's all there, but it's just different spices and a different crunch, but it still hits those notes that you need to hit, like you said, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Yes. Yeah, look, I'm telling you. You know what? That is truly a hidden gem. I'm not going to lie. Okay.
And they're doing seafood now, and it's pretty good too.
Is it? Okay.
I did the crawfish last time I was there.
I'm not going to lie. I haven't been in there pre-COVID.
Okay.
Pre-COVID.
It's nice. They actually like have tables with tablecloths now and sit down.
Okay. They're changing.
Yeah, we even took the kids. Like, we were there a lot longer because then we started playing pool and stuff, and the kids were running around, but they were totally fine with,
oh yeah,
kids and stuff.
No, it's super friendly.
Oh yeah, real nice people.
Yeah, super friendly. Okay. What's the Kosh need?
This is a hard one for me because when I think about like what are stuff I would like to see, I can't think of anything specific. Okay. But like having a 12-year-old and having a 7-year-old, I would love there to be in the winter like more stuff to take the kids to do, because I hate going to the mall and stuff like that. So like, where can I take? But with COVID, you have to keep in mind like, okay, where are we going to take them where it's not, we're not going to suddenly become an epicenter for spreading things. And so like, we take them to places like Mine Shaft, which is great for kids. I would have loved a place like that as a kid, big arcade and pizza.
Oh yeah.
But so just like, I keep trying to think like what would be something that Oshkosh needs, but it's really hard for me right now to think about that because of these other variables.
No.
I think there's a lot of really cool stuff here, that a lot of little hidden gems and so on. Honestly, living here for over a decade, I still don't feel like I've fully explored it.
No.
I feel like I've been able to. So I don't know. I could throw this one back at you and what you think it needs.
Oh, no. Look, but I like the idea of video games and pizza. You know what? I'm always along the lines, and I've said this on a couple other episodes, we don't have enough for the young people to do.
Yeah.
I think there's room in Oshkosh to bring in like maybe a trampoline park or something along the lines of a Chuck E. Cheese. Like, I'm old school.
Oh, yeah.
I like the old school Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E.
Nothing beat Chuck E. Like, that pizza was legit.
Yeah.
And the video games or the game options were legit, and the thing you could climb through was legit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know, because I don't even know if any McDonald's have any more playgrounds anymore.
Well, they did pre-COVID. I know there was one in Neenah that still did.
Well, I know the one in Oshkosh used to, but I don't know if that one's still open, but I feel like they might have taken that out.
Yeah, I know a lot of them. I remember the old McDonald's outdoor playgrounds
Yeah.
Those ones like with the Mayor McCheese and the Big Mac stuff, you climb inside. And of course, it was hot as hell because it was all metal sitting out in the sun all day.
Right.
But yeah, I remember those were my favorite ones when they moved them inside. And it just became like the plastic jungle gym thing. I was a little too big for them anyway. Didn't mean I didn't try.
But nonetheless, that's what I'm saying. Like, it just needs to be some things.
Yeah.
To be able to take your child to.
Well, and I think they've been doing a great job around town with updating a lot of the playground equipment and parks.
Yes, they have,
and that's been awesome. We've got a park just down the street from our house that the kids go down to. Which now they're at the age we can just say go to the park, and don't necessarily have to walk down. But yeah, I think it's getting a little more creative with interests of kids, because not every kid is interested in sports. I wasn't a sports kid really.
Right.
I played hockey a little bit, but I wasn't. It wasn't like my big thing to go do. And so even the small town I grew up in, we had to go find something to do if you weren't on a team. And I feel like, coming to obviously a much larger city than where I grew up, that still seems to be an ongoing problem. If your kids aren't into sports, what can you get them into? And there's plenty of things that kids would love to learn about or could be exposed to that they might really grasp onto. Just need more of those kind of opportunities.
Yeah. Something away from screen time.
Yes. As we all stare at screens.
As we all stare at screens.
Bruh.
Facts. All right. Yeah. All right. We're on to the next segment. Next segment is the Naughty/Heroes Corner. This is your opportunity to nominate someone, something, an organization, whatever. There's no, you can nominate whatever you want.
Well, there's an individual that I've been working with on campus that I think has been doing some really cool stuff kind of above and beyond for students, but also for the greater community. It's Dr. Jordan Karsten from the Anthropology Department.
Okay.
So we're in different departments, but we've collaborated on a couple of things, both in the classroom and out. He also hosts a podcast called the Cold Case Frozen Tundra podcast, and he's a forensic anthropologist. He actually brings his students and out into the field with him around the community, and they dig up cold cases.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah,
Bruh.
I need to know.
He's and so just yesterday, an individual was arrested for the murder of Starkey Swenson, which was a case going back to 1983. And Jordan and his students helped find him.
No way.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of cases that they're cold cases. They've kind of rejuvenated them, and they've had some success. They're bringing closure to people, from decades ago. So, it's cool. Like, what an awesome thing to be doing, right?
Yes.
But to get students involved in that, so you're giving them some real world experience with this incredible career opportunity, and you're also doing something right, And I that's not to say anything negative necessarily about detectives from those cases. Sometimes a case goes cold, right? But for somebody to say, "Hey, let's dig into it. It's been 30 years. Let's dig into it and see with our modern techniques what we can do," and they're doing some really cool things. So I just feel like they need to get a little more recognition.
What's the name of that podcast?
Cold Case Frozen Tundra.
Okay, we're going to put that link in.
Yeah.
Because that sounds freaking fantastic.
It's pretty cool, yeah. I think, just yesterday they arrested that individual. Of course, he's like in his 80s now, but still.
What's crazy is, so that's happening at the KOSH.
Mm-hmm.
UWO. Mm-hmm. It is, I'm always blown away about the things that are happening in our community, like that people just don't even know. But we have all of these amazing things, and that's why the KOSH exists, because we want to share this. Because I think our listeners and our greater public would be blown away to know that these are the kinds of things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, well, we're coming to that time, and definitely time to jump in. It is time for. Okay, that makes me happy every time.
Superman inspiring. That's awesome.
Right? It's time for the topic of the week. And the topic of the week is always chosen by our guest. And Joe, what's our topic of the week?
So the importance of science literacy in America now more than ever.
Ooh, break that down. What exactly does that mean?
Just we have, I feel, a society where, and I see it in students all the time. They come into my office, maybe they're struggling a bit with some of the material in a geology or a paleontology course, and it's this exasperated, I'm just not good at math and science. It's like, really? I mean, no. I mean, you make decisions every day that are like scientifically informed, and but there's this built-in fear. Most people fear mathematics and they fear science. However, in all of our pockets, we carry small computers that we wouldn't have without someone having an understanding of that. So we're getting to a point now where we have people who are increasingly relying on technology with no knowledge of how it works. And Carl Sagan, the great astrophysicist, pointed that out in the early 90s, like, I fear this is where we're going, and we are firmly there now. Right. And even looking at responses to things like research on climate change, COVID, a number of other environmental issues, people are resistant to it because of potentially political and sociopolitical ramifications. Like right. People, they'll ignore the science on climate change because they don't like what it might mean for their pocketbook, which I get. But then they just say, well, it's not a problem then. And no, these are two totally separate things. The science is the science. What you do about it, we can debate all day long.
Right. But it doesn't change the fact.
It doesn't change the facts, the demonstrable, repeatable facts about things like climate, environmental issues, COVID. I would even throw in, why the hell do we have people that think the Earth is flat suddenly? Like all this new growth in that. Like that's if we needed a canary in the coal mine, there it is of how dangerous this type of situation is.
Right.
And I think COVID just showed that, or has been showing.
Oh yeah, I think COVID definitely
has shown how dangerous it is to have a population that doesn't just. It's not just like, oh, I don't know about this topic.
Right.
Because you can be illiterate to something just means you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But then being so willfully ignorant to it, like resisting it and not using the critical thinking skills and the common sense of why should I be listening to a politician versus somebody who has spent a career studying this?
Right.
That just doesn't compute to me. And so it's, again, just like with trying to find ways of building, bridges with, a more diverse research community. How do we get people who aren't science-minded to understand more and show an interest or maybe realize the importance of these issues to them? Like I study dinosaurs. I'm not curing cancer. At the end of the day, I get to play with monsters. It's really fun. But what I can do with that, hopefully, is get people to think about questions critically. We can use dinosaurs as a way of doing that, perhaps. But how do we get somebody who's, and that's great for a young generation, right? Because kids, they like science, they like nature. How do you get somebody who's in their 50s or 60s kind of, digging in their heels to realize, no, this isn't politically charged. This is just the data, and these are what the data say, and this does affect you, and make a decision based on that. How do we do that? That's the hard part.
I don't know. Because to me, what you have is you have the battle of science systems versus belief systems. Mm-hmm. And you can't beat belief systems because it's based on belief, not on
absolutely.
And how do you get the logic of science to overcome the beliefs?
What's so strange is how individuals, and again, I'm not like picking on anybody. This is an observation that people cherry pick what they want, what they hear from scientific studies. They almost cherry pick what they're going to have conflict with their beliefs or not. Like I've run into plenty of young Earth creationists that are like, I don't believe in evolution, and okay, we can go back and forth. But then you ask them about plate tectonics, like the idea that all of our continents used to be together and over millions of years they've drifted apart. They're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, well, wait, no, you didn't think the Earth was that old when I brought up evolution, but I bring up plate tectonics, and you're like, well, clearly. So there's this kind of disconnect going on.
Bruh.
Yes.
And is it just they've never thought of it that way? In which case I'm like, all right, shut up, Joe. Don't bring it up. They're already on our side on this one. But so yeah, I'm not really sure how to move forward with it though. I remember when I first started here, one of the first years I was teaching, I did a lecture on evolution for class because we're learning about Earth through time and life through time. We have to talk about the principles of natural selection. And I had a student come up to me after class and say, this is like verbatim the conversation. She said, "What about Noah's Ark?" And I said, "Okay, well, what about it?" And she went, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." It's like, that's all it took.
What?
That was it.
That was it.
That was it. She thought I was trying to say something else, like, what about it? I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, can you elaborate? But she was like, oh, I've never thought of it that way. So maybe she just never elaborated in her own mind about it before. So yeah, it was really strange, but it was kind of funny to see, like, wow, I think maybe that's it. That some people just haven't really thought about it. And there are plenty of scientists out there that have faith that, that maybe they go to church or maybe not, but they have some kind of spirituality. Sure, there's nothing that says you can't.
Right.
I think when you start working on taking certain belief systems literal, verbatim, like this printed word is absolute. In fact, like this is equivalent to a history book. That's when I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have that. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise.
Oh, no.
Hey, enjoy your life. Be happy. If that's what it takes, then be happy. But for people that are relying on all this biomedical technology to stay alive, but then they say, oh, scientists don't know what they're talking about. And it's like, well, you're proof they do. So,
right?
It's a little, yeah, it gets a little confusing sometimes. And it can be frustrating. Like the movie that came out on Netflix this past winter, Don't Look Up, which was about an asteroid hitting the Earth and like the scientists seeing it coming and nobody listening to them, which was funny because it was originally made to be a climate parody in a way. A climate change issue kind of parody, but then it ended up being COVID as well. I can't tell you how many people I had asked, like family members, like, did you see that movie? Is it really that bad? I'm like, yes, every day. Every single day. You're like, this is what the data are telling us. And people just go, no, I don't want to believe that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are we going to have the next generation of iPhones and the next generation of cars and computers if we don't have people that understand how science works?
Right. And that it changes. And that's the one that frustrates me the most is they said this and now they're saying that. That's science.
That's how it works.
Yeah, the whole point is you study it and you report as you figure it out.
Science isn't about getting to the bottom of anything. It's not about closing any books, right? So the scientific process and the scientific method is about standing on the edge of a cliff of knowing, right? And you get to step infinitesimally closer to that edge with every discovery. You'll never fully understand all, but you just get a little bit closer every time. I mean, I can say with papers that I've published, studies that I've done on dinosaurs and on T-Rex and stuff, you'll answer one question. In doing so, you've opened up like 50 more.
Right.
Which is great job security. You always have something to study. But it's this constant, like, okay, like we were working on a project right now where we're describing the skull of this dinosaur. And so we decided in going through the description, let's take it to a hospital and have it CT scanned, which is dinosaurs get amazing healthcare. And so we CT scanned it, and we found that this thing has a whole bunch of like backup teeth in its mouth. Like we have baby teeth, adult teeth, and then that's it. These things would replace their teeth all through life. But we noticed some really weird stuff with how their teeth were growing. And that led to questions of, well, how were they actually biting? And how was their jaw mechanics working? Okay, well, what were they eating? And if they're browsing at vegetation, what kind of vegetation? Where would it be? And this just started with throwing the thing in a CT scanner bed. And now we're questioning all these different aspects of how this animal lived. And that's how science works. You learn one thing, and now it opens up. It's almost like playing D&D, right?
Right.
You enter the room, and now it's opened up a whole new cavern. And so it's kind of it's exciting to see that. But you're right. People get so set on, well, this is what they told me yesterday. This has to be absolute truth. And I think to go back to your point about belief systems, that's how belief systems work. What's truth is truth is truth. And whatever I was told isn't going to change. It's unwavering. So you know, faith has to be rigid. But science that's just constantly flowing. So yeah, how do we get these to work together? Well, I don't know.
That's so good, actually, and it's scary, right? Because right now we seriously are pushing back on all of the systems that got us to where we are today.
Exactly.
So how do we continue to move forward if we're finding all of these different reasons to discount that?
Well, and I don't feel like the answer is, well, we just need to go back to how it was.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
In the old days. No, and I don't think there's anything that really works that way. But we do have to maybe borrow something from the past, which is how do we get people to recognize their personal relationship with the scientific, you know, this body of scientific knowledge. And I think medicine is a great way to do that. And you'd think climate would, but climate generally moves so slowly, changes so slowly. What we're seeing now is much more rapid compared to what normally would happen without any, you know, anthropogenic influence. But how do we get people to see the real, like a faster science? And I think biomedicine is a great way of doing that, where you can see, you know, changes that happen. But yes, we've been dealing with a biomedical thing, and they see that this can change rapidly and it can affect your life in ways you didn't expect, and there was still resistance to it. And so it is a very scary time, because I could get behind, okay, people don't subscribe to evolution or certain aspects of space research or you know, climate, because these are slow systems and they can't see it happening in their day-to-day lives as much as, you know, you'd think. It's there, but they're not seeing that quick change. Medicine, you know, biomedical issues, yeah, those evolve very rapidly. Right. Nope, that didn't do it either. They just resisted that just as much, actually more. So now, I don't know how do we rope them in? I mean, do we need like an alien invasion for us all to get behind, or would people argue about that too? You know? So I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like we're in such a weird place with it all. Things like climate, I almost wonder. It's not that I think people truly doubt climate change, right? Because here's the one thing. I think what we all learn, if we didn't learn anything in the past couple of years, is like what someone will say publicly does not always reflect how they truly feel privately.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So what they're saying privately is very different than what they're publicly putting out there. My other thing is this. I always think sometimes we think, let's just push it back and put it off as long as possible, because when it does hit the fan, we can fix it. And I just think with this climate thing, they don't realize we can't fix it once it hits the fan. It done hit the fan.
We're past that point now.
Right. Yeah, we're past that point now. Now whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It's going to take I don't even know if there's a course correction for it.
No. I mean, and you don't want to promote that idea too much to get, you know, to inspire somebody to say, well, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't want the don't matter.
You don't want the don't matter, because there are still steps you can do to, you know, help. But are we going to reverse what's happened for the last few centuries? No.
Yeah.
And the idea that some of the criticism, like, well, it's preposterous that a human being, or that human beings, like one species, could have such an influence on a planet's climate. Are you kidding me? Bacteria have been doing it for like 4.6 billion years. It's pretty easy. You know, how do you think we got oxygen in our atmosphere? It's microbes. So, you know, that's the kind of things that people just don't think about. And I do think social media is, you know, there's good parts and bad parts about that, and how it contributes to this. And we just saw that with COVID, how there was so much misinformation. And when you don't have people that have been taught to think critically, they'll buy anything. They'll specifically go out and seek what they want to hear to confirm their preconceived notions.
Right.
And there's more information now to do that than ever. And so how do you get them to go to the right places? You have to teach them how to think. And I think that's what we've lost somehow along the way. We've become so reliant on technology to do things for us. We've stopped really promoting critical thinking. And I think when you get that critical thinking, this polarization we see, whether it's about the slap or whether it's about a president or whether it's about a war or climate, you'll see all those people that are actually in the middle that really do agree, but they don't know they do.
Right.
So somehow we've got to bring that to their attention.
Anything else you want to add?
No. I think I've exhausted that topic as much as I can.
Hey, I think that was awesome. That went hard. And I don't know. I just felt like there were some things that needed to be said that got to get said. Yeah. And not in a way where it's an attack.
No.
Or anything like that. It's just some things we got to say some of this stuff out loud.
Well, and nobody's going to be won over by being called stupid or being called a name or anything like that. No,
that doesn't work.
People's views and beliefs come from somewhere.
Right.
You can't bully them into changing those. They've got to come to it naturally.
And some of it, some of your beliefs come from people you love, and if that's what they believe, you believe it, and you don't want to discount their messengers sometimes, but you do want to get people to come to reasoning on their own that has logic based in there.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right. That was really good.
Oh, good.
All right. Well, we're at the part of the show where we start winding down.
Yeah.
All right. So, once again, Kosh listeners, thank you again for taking your time to listen, to spend time with us. We really, really appreciate that. Things have been awesome with the show. We got a great selection of guests coming up in the future. People are asking to be on. If you are interested in being on the Kosh, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. You know what? I think I'm not going to go too deep this week. So just remember this. We've got a new website where you can check out all the episodes. That is thekoshpodcast.com. Once again, that is thekoshpodcast.com. You can go back. I encourage you, go back and listen to some of the episodes. There's just some really good things that has been shared with the people from our community. A lot of knowledge, a lot of things you should go check out, especially with summer coming up. So get out the house, go check out some of the things that our guests have shared about. And finally, don't forget about the Kosh gear. We got Kosh gear here, hats, t-shirts, $20 each. If anybody's interested, just email me, let me know, or send me a message through our Facebook site, which is the Kosh Podcast. All right. Thank you so much, Kosh listeners. Okay, so now, as you all know, it's my favorite time of the show. It is shout out time. So, Joe, you got anybody you need to shout out?
I got a lot of things to shout out.
Oh, let's get it in.
Yeah, so I definitely got, once again, I'm going to shout out to, please check out the Video Junkyard Podcast. If you want to hear three guys talking about crappy movies, then, please join us for that.
Yes.
Episodes are released on SoundCloud, Spotify, and I think even Apple Podcasts every Friday. We also have a Video Junkyard Podcast Facebook page, as well as find us on Twitter at VideoJunkPod. So that one, as well as also wanted to mention Jordan Carson's podcast once again, which is Cold Case Frozen Tundra. And also, big shout out to the UWO Department of Geology and the Weiss Earth Science Museum at UW Fox City's campus. So if you want to actually see some cool dinosaur stuff and learn more about the geology of this portion of Wisconsin, check out the Weiss Museum. It's great for kids. It's yet another really cool hidden gem in the area.
Okay. Love it. All right. Okay, my shout outs for this week. One shout out goes to Dubuque, Iowa, Q Casino, and the dog races. Once again, they are closing the dog races down there. This was one of the few places. This was a highlight. I go there once a year, have an amazing time, go with my in-laws. Shout out to Janet and Chris, especially my partner in crime in the dog tracks, Chris Weiss. Love you, man. And just got back, and let me tell you, it was beyond amazing. The people, every year we go, it's the same people. So the same bartenders, the same people work at the casino, the same hotel people that check in. And like, there's a familiarity. There's something that feels good when you see the same things year after year, even though you may only go once a year. And let me just say that nothing makes a trip to the dog track as good as actually winning.
Bruh.
Nice.
And I did.
Nice.
So shout out once again, Chris Weiss. We've come up with a formula, a plan on how you do it, but they're closing it down here in a few weeks. So this is the end of an era, and I'm kind of sad that that's what's happening. So I would tell you now, if you love dog races at all, you need to hurry up and try to run there because it's only a 3-hour drive. Shout out to Casa of the Fox Cities. They're just an amazing organization. I got to meet the executive director, and think I'm going to try to find some ways to work with them because they just have a great mission overall. Like to send a shout out to the foundation of UW Fox Cities. That's just we're about to have an auction, a little fundraising going on. So there's going to be an online auction that we're going to be putting out, and I think I'm going to do some posts on that. So keep an eye out, support our students. Majority of the students' money does go back to like scholarships and other things to make the campus a better campus for the students. So definitely want that to be happening. Shout out to Mosaic Health, who asked me to come in and talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I got an opportunity to do that. And I got to sit in an amazing room full of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, and such. And they care. They care to make sure that they're doing health properly for all people. And there's something to be said for that. They just care. They want to make sure, no matter who you are, what your culture, your background, they want to make sure they're providing you the best health care that they can, and they have questions. They want to find out how can they do it better. And I appreciate anybody who asks that kind of question. And last but never least,
Bruh.
the Bucks. Can we do a shout out to the Bucks? Because my Bucks, oh my God, yes, Bucks. Thank you for being the Bucks. Just keep doing Bucks things. Yes, and know this. I am all bucked up. I will be rocking Buck gear. I got a Buck replica championship ring that I will be wearing for the games. So if you see me out and about and I'm watching a game somewhere and you're saying, who's that dude sitting there with that big fat ring on that looks like a Bucks ring, that might be Timber. Just might be him. And come join me. Come sit next to me. Even if you're from the opposing team, I had no problems with that. Because all I can say to that is, you got to beat us. Mm-hmm. And we ain't easy to beat. Bucks. All right. I'm done with that now. That felt good. Woo. Okay. Now, time for the last part of the show, and that is our parting words of wisdom. But lately, in the last episodes, we have given the option about whether you can either give parting words of wisdom, or the other question is, what would yourself today tell your 12-year-old self about the future, or how to prepare, or just wisdom you'd want to share? Or you can do both. So, Joe, what are you thinking?
I think, if I could look back at this is weird too, because I have a 12-year-old daughter now, and so it's like really thinking, what does she need to hear, or what would I need to hear at that age? And honestly, I think the big thing would be keep at it. It may not work out how you plan. Nothing ever does. But it's going to be what it's going to be. And you got to roll with it.
That sounds like wisdom. I like it.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Joe, how'd you like it?
That was great.
Yeah?
That was a blast.
It's a good time, right?
Yeah. It was great. I love this. I like the setup. Good questions. Yeah, this is cool. Good job. This is awesome.
The Kosh.
Gosh.